Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market in general. Let's go over what is happening today, what we can expect moving forward into what could be obviously a pretty spicy week, right? Options premiums currently are very elevated for this week. They're on like 80% implied volatility because of Robotaxi event on Thursday evening. So all that being said, pretty spicy week coming up. Let's check it out. I'll give you my thoughts, my personal analysis and whatnot, and what I think can happen next. So as usual, if you enjoy, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. That link is down below in the description of the video. For just $2.99, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, post updates. Every single day the market is open on Tesla and sometimes the broader market or other stocks as well. Or for $5 a month or $4.99, you get access to all my intraday thoughts as well, but for NVIDIA. So access to all that, but also NVIDIA as well. So I'm bringing up a couple of things I want to quickly mention over here. So for instance, this morning, literally right before the market opened, Tesla pre-market resistance at 252. If we break that, we should see 255 to 260. However, losing 248 can lead us back down to mid to low 240s. That's what I said pre-markets, and that's exactly what happened. So let's talk about it. Tesla closing the day down almost 4% on the day, closing down at pretty much, we'll just say $241 per share, which is pretty, pretty disappointing, I guess, to say the least. I definitely was hoping for a little bit of an outperformance for Tesla today. We didn't get that, but we're still trading within my, maybe I said 260 to about 240s range. We're still trading within that range. And there are a couple of setups for Tesla, despite this weak closure, that can potentially trigger a bit of a bullish reversal. And there's a whale that came in as well. So let's talk about the whale first, actually. This is probably the most interesting thing I saw. I only just noticed it. I wasn't looking earlier. But at 11 in the morning, when Tesla was at pretty much $243, some whale came in, bought pretty much 3.5 million worth of calls on Tesla, 250 strikes. So it's out of the money. That alone was already pretty damn good. I like to see that. But the part that's the most unusual and the most eyebrow raising, in my opinion, is the fact that it's expiring this Friday. That's pretty unusual. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty unusual. Either this whale is about to make bank or this whale is about to light $3.5 million on fire pretty quickly. So that's just, take that for what it's worth. Again, options, you don't know the full story. Take it as you will, but clearly some massive whale that's willing to put $3.5 million on the line for a weekly call option that's also out of the money. We'll see how that plays out. But moving on to the chart, right? Tesla, there's good things, there's good news and there's bad news, right? The good news is the fact that, let's go over the good news first. I think the bulls probably want some good news here because, let's just say, not a good day. The good news is the fact that, number one, we're still in this channel. Right? We're still in the rising channel as long as it holds. It's all good essentially, right? It's a rising channel. We're going to continue rising while within the channel. If we break below, that's obviously going to be really, really bearish. So far, so good. On the on the linear chart, which is what this chart you're currently looking at is the bottom of the channel, is going to be sitting at, let's say, even tomorrow at around 238. So not much lower, only about $3 lower from here. So you definitely want to start, holding that general support area. And I'll give you a few other reasons on the 1 hour chart soon as to why, I think that there is some potential signs of us holding this general vicinity to move higher. Obviously, it's not guaranteed. And obviously, if you lose the channel, things are probably not going to go so well. Or if you go onto the, what's it called? The logarithmic chart on Tesla instead. This currently right here looking at is the logarithmic chart. It's actually the channel is a little bit tighter in the sense that we're pretty much at the support, right? Instead of that $3 lower, roughly like I mentioned here, you can see in the logarithmic, we're pretty much right at channel support. So pretty much what I want to see is I want to see Tesla find a bid honestly tomorrow. Like I want to see Tesla open up tomorrow at the very least flat or a gap up. If we get a gap down tomorrow to open, it better be a small one. And if nonetheless it is still a gap down, I do want to see some strength come in pretty much as market opens within the first 10 or so minutes. I want to see Tesla start moving its way back up. If we don't see that, if we see Tesla slowing down and still being weak in the first 10 to 15 minutes, it could be a bad sign, potentially a bad sign. So just watch for that, in my opinion. That's going to be really, really important because, we are a little bit on thin ice over here. And if there is a place that not only it should bounce, but it kind of needs to bounce, we're pretty much around that general vicinity right here, right now. So take that as you will. Also, the 1 hour chart, let's go over, finish off the bullish things, right? The 1 hour chart, we came down to gap fill. Now, I was hoping we wouldn't gap fill, right? I was actually hoping that this bounce right here was the bounce and we just kind of held from there. I actually didn't really want to see this gap fill, which we pretty much did at market close. And the reason for that is because usually when you come down for gap fill, so you got a gap up like this and you come down to gap fill this quickly, it's not bad. Like, it's not bad news, but it's less bullish than you would want to see. Ideally, when you see bullish moves like this, remember, like I mentioned the Google example before, is this supposed to be Google? Oh, it is. Anyway, yeah. Remember how I mentioned Google, how on the daily chart, back here, how it gapped up, and just kept gapping up and then didn't really come back down to fill those gaps? That's a bullish move. That's what you want to more or less see. Now, it might come down to fill a couple of these gaps, but the point is like, this is a true bullish move, right? You want to see these gap ups and you don't really want to see just come back down within the next day or two or something like that and just gap fill, right? Again, it's not bad news. The fact that we're still holding above it barely, it's still good. But if this was like a truly bullish move and this was like a really like a very nice bullish impulsive move to the upside, you wouldn't normally see these kind of gap fills fill this quickly, right? It again makes it feel a little bit less bullish in my opinion. Still bullish, but just less bullish. So we'll see how that plays out, but we definitely want to hold above this. But the other thing I want to mention, the fact that we're potentially doing here, is the fact that we are setting up an inverted head and shoulders, right? So we have the left shoulder here, we have the head here, and now we're pretty much setting up the right shoulder here. But this is another reason why I honestly, maybe the linear or the log chart actually works a little better with this trend line. I do want to see us, again, I don't want to see us go much lower at all from here. Like, I want to see us open tomorrow flat or higher. And the main reason, again, is just, it's pretty simple. I don't want to enter the territory of the head. Right now, to me, the territory of the head is pretty much anything really like below, honestly, if we go below 240, we're pretty much entering the territory of the head already. And it kind of starts making this inverted head and shoulders bullish pattern not so bullish anymore. It pretty much eliminates the pattern in my opinion, because the shoulders should never enter the territory of the head, because unless it's just the weirdest head and shoulders pattern ever, right? So that's kind of, those are the aspects I'm looking at right now that I don't want to see happen, right? The good news is the fact that, well, okay, if we do get a bounce from here, pretty much right around here tomorrow, that is a possibility because the stochastic is oversold, the RSI is oversold, right? Obviously, we're not getting any bullish confirmations. Like, we still have a bearish MACD, for instance, on the 1 hour, right? The stochastic is still bearish. The true strength indicator is still bearish. The BX trender is still bearish. Like, they're all still making lower lows or cross bearish. But if there is a place for them to slow down and finally kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Start to curve up slowly, right? Or at least flatten up and then start curving up. Like, we're pretty much right where that can potentially start to happen. So that's where I want to see. Like, it's pretty important, the fact that, we, again, don't really gap down tomorrow. And if we do, it's a very light gap down. And especially if we do, we rise up pretty much upon market open roughly pretty quickly. Because again, I don't want to see Tesla go too much lower than this ideally, right? This is, if there's a place to bounce, we're pretty much right at it. And again, if we go any lower, then this bull is going to be lighting this money on fire, unless somehow Tesla gets a massive gap up like Friday or something like that. And, this whale, makes money on that, I guess. Nothing to note is the fact that, October is Tesla's, it's a weak seasonality month for Tesla, right? You can see October seasonality for Tesla. We're currently on October 7th. So we're pretty much on this little red line right here. And you can see it actually only gets worse. It only gets worse. Honestly, starting tomorrow, it only gets worse, and it pretty much stays that bad for quite a while until pretty much like the 16th, 17th, 18th of the month. Then it kind of evens out, and then it gets much worse as we pretty much enter earnings, right? As we enter earnings, like earnings for Tesla, according to TrendSpider on TrendSpider Trading View right now, is sitting at actually the 23rd of October. Taking a look at the seasonality, you can see that's pretty much right where earnings is. Maybe get that earnings dip, earnings fear, and then Tesla has a pretty decent end of the month for the last week or so of the month. So again, seasonality, you want to take it as you will. It's not perfect, it's not guaranteed. Take it as you will, right? Not perfect whatsoever, but it's just something worth kind of having in the back of your mind, right? Just kind of understanding like, oh, okay, well, this is the possibility, right? Just according to statistics, right? You can see this is from 2011 to 2024. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But just something worth noting, the fact that, if we follow this, then Tesla most likely will be breaking southwards of this channel. That'd be very bearish in my opinion, because again, like I said many times, Tesla, it will break down out of this channel at some point. 100% that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. I also said many times that I want to see Tesla break down out of this channel after breaking 270 for this high, or else we set a lower high. And then we break out of this rising channel that we've been in for a decent amount of time. again, when we follow this channel, it will be a decent correction. It's just a matter of, will this correction actually go lower and potentially make its way back into the one somethings, like 170s, 180s? Or do we break 270 first? Do we make our way up higher like this? And then from here, we fall finally back down out of the channel, but the correction won't be as severe. Maybe we come down to only like 230, 220, worst case, the low 200s. That's kind of the question. Or do we just kind of, maybe make our way back up a little bit and then fall, and then ultimately make our way much, much lower like this? Those are the two pathways I see for Tesla for the next few months, right? It's just, again, a matter of which, do we break 270 before falling out of this channel, or do we not? Biggest question right now. And again, only time will tell, right? With catalysts like robotaxi coming up, with catalysts like earnings coming up, especially, this is good, especially in a month like October. There is a month to, make things as confusing as possible and to make things as uncertain as possible. And also kind of a nail biting situation because of, again, my two projected paths, how varied they are, right? One's pretty bullish in my opinion. One's pretty bearish. This is the month to do it. So this is probably the perfect month for Tesla to be this kind of complex situation that it's in. So we'll see. We'll take it day by day, level by level. Nothing is, no one knows for sure. Nothing is guaranteed. So make sure, you're trading or investing or whatever with your own personal risk adjustment, right? Because there is, of course, a risk here, absolutely, as there always is. And yeah, watch out for those levels. And the final thing I guess I'll mention is the fact that, this red line was that ascending wedge that we had, the rising ascending wedge that we had. Remember, we've been talking about it, that we ended up breaking back above. And then I mentioned how I preferred the channel instead. But honestly, in this kind of situation, it's not that bad to look at this red line with the bottom green line as well as that rising wedge. Because, we broke out of it and then we kind of hugged the top of the channel and then we came back down and we actually came back almost to the perfection to retest that wedge. And then we gapped down below it, which isn't good. And then you can see we're kind of turning it back into resistance. So this is another thing to pay attention to, right? The only way Tesla can potentially really get a move that's more guaranteed, not guaranteed, more higher chance of happening, I guess, back up and breaking 270 is breaking back up above this red line, which as of right now and probably for the rest of this week will sit somewhere around 252 to 253. 253 to be safe, honestly, right? That's where Tesla essentially needs to, excuse me, I think I got a hair in my mouth, but that's where Tesla needs to essentially get back above. And if we can get back above the mid to low 250s, I actually believe Tesla at the very least will come back up to retest this 265 double top potentially, or it actually, again, puts in play the fact that it can finally come back, break above this 270 massive area of resistance, which is crucial, and make its way to at least 280, which will be the top of the channel. And then I think it'll find a resistance, but because it's set a fresh higher high on the daily, that's going to be a good for structure longer term for the stock. And I think Tesla will be setting up a pretty damn good situation here. Then I think it'll come down and fall out of this channel like this. Then I think it'll come back down to retest this, general support area around 230s, 220s, which also lines up with the weekly time frame of it coming back down, let's say, a few weeks rather from now, which will be kind of just essentially another retest of this multi-year trend line that we have broken out of on the logarithmic chart. So on the weekly, of course. So again, we're in a pretty special situation here for Tesla. It really comes down to how it decides to behave in the next few weeks, really, maybe even a couple of weeks. And yeah, I'll give you my thoughts as per usual. We'll take it day by day. And yeah, thanks for watching. And as usual, see you for the next one. Peace.